If you're like most people on this planet, you're probably fairly busy. We are connected by technology, we are always on the go, and we have a lot to do. But having too much to do can be stressful. Unfortunately, many people simply don't know how they can fix that, how they can reduce all of the things that they have to do, because inevitably somebody will ask you to do something, whether it's at work, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's a favor or a new project, whatever it is, it's inevitable that more things will be presented to you, you will be asked to do more, and you will end up with more on your to-do list, more things on your plate. If you watch this channel, of course, you understand that that comes with consequences. Having too much stress in our lives can take a toll on us. It can affect our physical health, our psychological and emotional health, and it can definitely affect the quality of our lives and our daily experiences. So what do we do with all this? We live in a fast-paced society, in a fast-paced world filled with technology, and many people are busy. What do we do with that? Well, first, it's important to realize that everybody has a limit and everybody has a certain capacity. And once you reach that capacity, you cannot do any more. When we have too much to do and we don't know how to reduce all of that which is expected of us or requested of us, it can become quite stressful. And if you watch this channel or know anything else about stress, you know that stress can be detrimental. It can be harmful to your physical health, your psychological health, your emotional health. So it's important to understand, one, that you do have limits, and two, that if you try to ignore those limits or go beyond those limits, especially on a prolonged basis, it can really take a toll on you. It can really backfire. It can make you unhappy. It can make you sick. It can lead to some terrible things, including serious health issues and even death. So it's important that we all learn to say no to some things that are brought to our doorstep, if you will. It's important that we know how to set boundaries. It's important that we know what alternatives there may be for us and for those making requests of us, so that we don't have to agree to every request, so that we don't expect to do everything that's on our to-do list endlessly. Let's start with setting boundaries, whether we're talking work or your personal lives. Boundaries have to be in place in order to protect you from too many requests, too many responsibilities. They have to be well defined, and they have to be implemented and adhered to. You can't have a boundary that's not well defined and expected to do its job. In the same way, you can't have a boundary that, even if it's well defined, you don't stick with it regularly. Sometimes you adhere to it, sometimes you don't. You're sending a mixed message to the world in terms of what your boundaries are. So start with boundaries. For example, some people may have boundaries regarding their work. So they don't work after hours. They don't work outside of the office. They don't work on weekends or holidays or their vacations. Those are some examples of boundaries. Your boundaries may be that when it comes to shared meals with your family, everybody sits at the table and eats dinner or whatever meal is appropriate for the family, without phones and tablets and TVs and other interruptions. That might be a boundary that somebody sets for their family. Another example of a boundary, maybe somebody has a boundary in terms of how many requests of favors or whatever other requests they take from people in their personal lives, friends, family, neighbors. Many of you understand how easy it is for these favors or requests to add up so quickly. Everybody wants something. Oh, if you're going to such and such anyway, can you do X, Y, and Z for me? And it seems like harmless requests, and by themselves they are, but it's the cumulative nature of too many requests, too many things on your to-do list that can turn into a stressful situation, that can turn into something that is detrimental to you. So maybe you have a limit of doing 3 things for other people on any given day and really not accepting any other requests beyond that. Now, of course, there is something to be said for being flexible, but there's a big difference between being flexible when you need to be and being inconsistent with your boundaries. So remember that. We have to be able to change and adapt if need be, but there's a big difference between doing that and simply having either ill-defined boundaries or being inconsistent with our boundaries. So again, we start with setting boundaries. It's important to be able to prioritize. Everybody has some kind of to-do list, whether it's on paper, electronically in their head, or if they just do things as they come along. But chances are, at any given time, you probably have more than one thing on that to-do list. You have to be able to prioritize. Not everything on your list should be number 1 priority or high priority. You should be able to discern what you have to get done and when, how much effort needs to be put into it, and how much stress you should allow it to have on your experience because of whatever priority you may have assigned to it. So remember, being able to discern priority of anything that's on your to-do list, whether that's at home or at work. You may have to delegate some things on your to-do list, or maybe trade with other people so that you're not expected to get everything done. If you are in a position, whether that's again at home or at work, where you can delegate some of your tasks, that takes care of trimming your to-do list. But sometimes that's not necessarily an option. However, you may have the option to trade off some tasks. And you and the person with whom you're trading may be able to make a swap where both of you are happier with the new task than the task that you originally had. And while when we look at our to-do lists, we tend to think in terms of what's going on today at any given day, we have to think about saying no in terms of how it affects our lives and our experiences and our well-being on a long-term basis. So keep that in mind as you consider how well you say no to favors and requests and other things that may land on your doorstep, that may end up on your to-do list, how well you do at saying no, how well you do at setting boundaries and prioritizing and maybe delegating or swapping tasks and responsibilities. Think about not just the moment and today and maybe this week, but think of it in terms of long term, because life tends to be long term for most of us. So while yes, we have to take care of some things in the moment, some things today, some things this week, we also have to be able to plan our future, and our future as far as our well-being goes. Stress is a big deal when it comes to that. So make sure you take the time to practice saying no, set your boundaries, figure out what you can do, how to do it so it's done tactfully, it's done in a way that benefits you and hopefully the other party, or at least doesn't cause disharmony whenever possible, and consider your experiences on a long-term basis. Assume that you're here for the long haul, and it's your responsibility to take care of yourself and to manage stress in such a way that you do well into the future for many years to come. If you'd like to learn more about a comprehensive approach to stress management, check out the links below.